Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the School District PR Pros podcast. I'm so excited because I'm sitting here with Andrea Gribble, who is like the best social media marketer in the world for school districts. And we're so excited to talk with her about how she does it and the tips and tricks here in 2024 so that your social media can be the best that it can be. So, Andrea, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm definitely the biggest cheerleader. I wouldn't say I'm like the best like school marketer
Sure.
on the planet, but I sure love learning from, all the people across the country and then sharing what I've learned that works for schools.
Great. Well, why don't you start by introducing yourself and like what you do and how you even got into this, and yeah, what does a day look like in your life these days?
Yeah, well, it looks a lot different than it did a little over 10 years ago. I was in the corporate world and worked there for 13 and a half years. In the fall of 2013, I was walked into work on a Monday and found out my job had been eliminated. So was a single mom with two little girls. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? My background's in chemistry, a little bit similar to you having a kind of an engineering background. Wasn't really trained formally on social media and marketing, but kind of fell into helping small businesses market on social media. And it was really fun. And it was when the school district that my daughters attend, my mom was actually the district administrative secretary. She was talking about me losing my job. And the superintendent was like, we can give her something to do. She could start Facebook and Twitter and YouTube for the school. And I was like, awesome, because it's not really like advertising. You're just like celebrating all the great things that were happening. I went to school there when I was young. Now my girls were there. And so I thought we've got a lot of great stories to tell. So very accidentally ended up in that realm, but then found out other schools needed help. And so now my company, Social School for EDU, we help hundreds of schools across the country utilize platforms like Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and Twitter or X and YouTube to really celebrate what's happening in their school. We do that through full management, where we have a team of stay-at-home moms that do the social media for school districts that don't have a communications person. I have a training program that really trains people that are doing that job at their school. And then I've got I kind of do a lot of speaking around the country. I wrote a book. I've got a weekly podcast on social media in schools. So it's just kind of my world, which can sometimes be challenging because social media, I know that it's not all rainbows and unicorns, of course, but there is a lot of good to share. And so I'm really focused on what works best when it comes to the K-12 school market, and how to put that in place to help, celebrate the students and staff that are at our schools.
That's fantastic. And let's just dive right in here. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see school districts making with their social media?
Yeah. Well, the number one mistake is utilizing social media as a bulletin board. They're just simply sharing upcoming events, board agendas. Don't forget that this is happening. And all they're doing is putting out informational thing that drives no engagement. So social media marketing is right now it's free, right? I mean, you can pay to boost, but it's a free platform. But if you're not celebrating and sharing the right content, it's not going to reach anybody. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, I wonder what's happening at the school district. One, they don't go to your website, okay? But they do go to social media, but they don't go to your Facebook page. They just go to their Facebook feed and start looking through it. And you have to show up there, and there's a lot of competition to do that. And so if you're not posting at the right times with the right content that people are actually engaging with, which means like, comment, share, right, interacting, it's just not going to be seen by people. And so, they're not sharing the right content. And then they're certainly not, many districts are just not posting often enough. Schools are very different than a business. Rob, you run a couple businesses. I run a business. If we could get the reach that schools get, we would be so ecstatic, because they have this vested community, these families, these staff members that are interested. But it's not like a business where many people say on a business page you shouldn't post more than once a day. We, on average, for the 86 school districts we serve across the country, we're posting 3 times a day, and we're getting great reach. My little district in New Auburn is reaching over 30,000 people, 30,000 different people on Facebook every month without advertising. And it's
Wow.
because we're telling authentic stories. They're seeing continual updates. They are cheering our kids on. They're offering encouragement. They are, showing up in big ways to support our staff. And that school district has less than 300 kids, K through 12.
Wow. That's incredible reach. And so, okay, so schools should not be thinking about social media like a big bulletin board. So, how should they be thinking about their social media accounts?
Yeah, well, it's really about celebrating the small moments, the big moments, and sharing them with your community. I mean, everybody, Rob, almost everybody, okay, 99.5% of people have one of these in their pocket, and it's the cell
Right.
phone, which is a camera, right? And it's a video recorder, and it's an awesome one. We have to capture those everyday moments that are happening in our school and share them. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. And it doesn't have to be, you do at School Shine, you do amazing videos, which has a time and a place. But we're really talking about the authentic moments that are happening day in and day out, and showcasing who we are as a school, not necessarily the test scores. And it's not always just the field trips. It is, a student helping another student tie their shoe. It is that little experiment that's happening in the 7th grade classroom. Because you know what? At one time, I had a 7th grader. They did not come home and tell me that they did this cool experiment in their classroom where they extracted DNA from strawberries. Like, how cool is that? They didn't tell me that. But when I saw it on social media, I could have that conversation with my child, and we could start talking about what we're learning. So we have to basically let the outside world, parents, the community, their extended families that might be around, across the country, we have to kind of give them a peek into the classroom, a peek outside of the classroom, and really let those stories speak to who we are as a school district or a school entity, in providing amazing opportunities for students and for staff.
That's really well said. And telling all those stories, getting all that content, I imagine that takes really good systems, really good processes. Talk
Yes.
about what it takes to actually do that at scale reliably, not just when you think about it, not just, in kind of bursts, but like every day, all the time.
Yeah. Well, I really am a big believer in systems. I mean, that goes back to kind of my chemistry type science background. And I did release my book last year, Social Media for Schools. And the simplest way, and again, many districts, they don't have somebody that wears this communication title. Okay. It might be administrative secretary. It might be a teacher that's passionate about social media. It might even be a volunteer. It might be your media specialist. They're the ones that are going to post on your district social media page. Okay. So what we suggest is just setting up an email address. And we ask all of your staff, support staff, leadership, and your teaching staff, send in 2 things a month. If you're in a bigger school district, send in 1 thing a month to this email address with a picture, a couple pictures, not 400 pictures, please. Because, we're probably not going to put 400 pictures out on social media. Couple pictures and a brief description of what you're doing. Okay. And then take it from there. We right now, as we record this, it's mental health awareness month in the month of May. And we have a group, a Raise Your Voice middle school group that really wants to promote some mental health awareness. And so we are sharing some mental health tips. We had a little video that they shot that invited everybody to wear green coming up on Thursday this week. And, so we're able to utilize those channels also to share that information. But the reason I got that information, and again, Rob, I'm not physically at the school. Okay. So we got to make it easy for anybody to get this content. But if you are at the school, great, but you're not always in one spot. So we set up an email address that advisor just simply emailed and said, hey, can you post this week? Here's some posts we'd like posted every day. And I can set aside some time in my day, 15 minutes. I look at that email address, I look at what's come in, and then I schedule things out. Everything's not posted that day. Meta for free allows you to schedule those things out. And then I can keep up with looking at comments and things, making sure things don't get out of control. But then the next day I can come back to that email and then I can say, okay, what else happened? Oh, they planted trees in this class. Oh, this FFA group had this banquet and there was these awards given. And then I schedule those out to post when the most people are going to see them. I post them written in an engaging way that says, let's hear it for our FFA students with a comment below. You're trying to encourage that engagement. It's not just putting it out there and be like, we planted trees today. That's, we need to spice things up. We need to encourage people to engage. And that's what's going to help your stories be seen by more people.
That's great. And so what are some of those like best times of the day, best times of the week to be posting?
Yeah, it can change depending. We don't post a lot on weekends, Rob, because frankly, a tagline of my book is while keeping your sanity. So social media never sleeps. But certainly we can turn on some of the activity at certain times, and we deserve a break on the weekends as well. So we don't post a ton on the weekends. Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. is a great time to post because most people, I'm 46. I am a mom. When I get up, it's like my coffee time and, it's time where I can scroll through and I'm not dealing with kids and demands and husbands and all of those things. 7 p.m. is often a good time, 8 o'clock at night, because your time on social media, it's sad that it's so much throughout the day, but a lot of times it peaks around 8 p.m. So posting around that time. Another magic time, Rob, is 30 minutes before your pickup time at your school. So
Ooh.
if, because you've got parents, you got grandparents sitting out for the best parking spot to get their children from school, what are they doing? They are scrolling, okay, because they're just waiting. So if you can, our pickup time is about 3:25 at my school. So I try to post at 3 o'clock. I also post at lunchtime if I have enough content. You don't have to post all of these times if you don't have the content. And especially now we're coming up on summer, which I think we're going to talk about. Summer content looks different than during the school year content because generally you don't have as much going on. But yeah, so 6 a.m. I do 11 a.m. to hit that lunchtime time period, 3 p.m., 7 p.m. You can obviously throw things in around that if you've got so much content, which right now at the end of the school year, I do. I think I posted 7 times yesterday on Facebook. I don't like to do that, but I do space things out. So do not post things on top of one another. If you post something at 9 a.m. and post something else at 9:10 and post something else at 9:20, because that happens to be when you're working, those posts are not going to reach as many people. Facebook thinks you as a page are spamming people, and that's not good. So
Yeah. So what's a good cadence? Like how far apart should you be posting?
well, usually we're trying to do about 4 hours apart. So you heard me say 6 a.m., 11, 3, 7. But if you have to post more, I'd say at least 2 hours.
Hmm.
So
That's a really good tip. And so, yeah, talk about, since we're coming into summer here, talk about summer. What makes some great summer content?
Yeah. Well, obviously, if you have summer school, you want to post about that. And your summer school staff might be a little bit different than your regular school year staff. So make sure that you talk with those staff members and say, hey, we've got this email address set up. Make sure, hey, once a week we'd love to get up something happening from your classroom, or from, sometimes they have some really cool activities like golf or kayaking or fishing. So you definitely want to share summer school or summer activities if you have them. One of my favorite posts that has been since I started this business in 2014 is Throwback Thursdays. People love nostalgia. Okay. These are old or pictures from your yearbooks from years gone by. I just take my phone into where all the yearbooks are stored, which sometimes is in the library and sometimes it's in the darkest, dingiest part of your school ever. But you find those yearbooks and you take pictures of old yearbooks. I take a picture of the cover, and then I'll take 3 or 4 pictures from that year. And then that way I know what year it came from. And then I upload all of those pictures into a Google folder. And then every Thursday, I schedule one to be posted at 6 a.m. You got to be careful and check political, like, what was politically acceptable, or, back in the 60s or 70s is way different than today. So you want to make sure that you feel comfortable with what you're sharing. But those Throwback Thursdays are a huge hit. You end up drawing in alumni, you hear stories. It's a really great engagement tool for your school district, and you're going to end up adding followers. So, any questions on Throwback Thursdays?
Oh, for
Do,
me, no. I mean,
yeah,
that sounds great. So you're talking about old. You're like talking old, like retro, like back in the '60s,
yeah. I mean,
not just like this last year.
you
Yeah,
can throw it back to 2022, right? And you
right.
can throw it, back into the colored yearbooks. It's always fun when you finally see the colored yearbooks versus when I
Yeah,
was still in school, Rob, they were still black and white. But
right.
it's really neat. And in small schools like ours, there's a lot of family history. All of a sudden, grandparents that graduated back in the early 70s now have grandkids that are now students in
Yep.
New Auburn, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's grandma."
Mhm.
So we tend to get a lot of engagement from those like 70s and 80s, right? So that's really key. But yeah, so that can be a great one, and it's a great time to do it because usually we're a different kind of busy in the summer. And so if you can take an hour or two to go get all those pictures for your Thursdays, don't give up after one, Rob. Okay, I'd say at least try it 7 or 8 weeks. But remember, 70% of your community has no direct tie to your school district anymore. Okay. They don't have kids in your schools anymore. 70% of your community are voting if you're in public school. So the Throwback Thursdays can be a way of engaging that community. So that's my second tip. Third tip is building updates. Usually there's cleaning, there's remodeling. It's kind of like that behind the scenes. People just love that. So if you can share any of that, also just people who work year round. Some people don't realize that some of your staff does work year round. So sharing some of those stories could be good.
Yeah.
So that's my third tip. Fourth would be staff promotions or new hires. So as it gets
Ooh.
closer to the beginning of the school year, how nice is it to invite somebody into your community before they even see anybody? So it's like all of a
Yep.
sudden you've just got their picture. Maybe you say, hey, here is our new, first grade para educator, or it's our new art teacher. Maybe it just says that, or maybe it says, hey, I'm Mrs. Gribble. I'm the new, communications person. Here's my family. And maybe they share a little personal note. But that way, before back to school night, their picture's been seen. People will kind of recognize them when they go in. And what's really cool, Rob, is most of the time they will get oh my gosh, my child's going to be in your class, or you'll get their grandma or mom who it's their first job out of college and they're so excited. So they're sharing it with everybody that they know. And so you get a bunch of new followers. So it's very good for engagement that way. So that was my fourth.
Interesting. And
Yeah. Do you have a
oh,
question on
and
that?
if there's more, yeah, no,
Well, I
no,
got
I want you to finish.
my fifth tip. And Rob, I just
Yeah,
get so excited over this stuff. But my
I
fifth
love this.
tip
I
is,
love it. I don't want to get in the way.
yeah. My fifth tip is really easy. It's a question of the week. Okay. It's on
Okay.
Facebook. You use the background colors that Facebook gives you, and you
Yeah.
ask a question like, who was your favorite teacher? Or do you remember the name of your second grade teacher? Or what was your favorite class in high school? Or something related to school like that. And I have a list. I'll get it to you, Rob. It's
Yeah.
52 questions that you can ask.
Cool.
So it's one per week. So you could definitely do it beyond just the summer months, but I suggest doing it once a week. My only caveat is some people might say, this is a security question. The schools shouldn't be asking this, And
Yeah.
so you may get that. And my response usually is you should never share anything you do not feel comfortable with on social media. We are
Yeah.
simply trying to engage our audience and get some engagement here. So that's the only thing to caution on. But this does two things. This question of the week. First of all, it builds up the algorithm because you're going to get more questions. And by the way, if anybody, I don't know when this is going to air, but another great question is alumni roll call. What year did you graduate? We do it every year before
Mm.
graduation. I just did it this week in my little school district. We have over 100 comments. It's like, and everybody's debating who's the best year. So that's really fun. But it will boost up that algorithm and it'll help all of your posts be seen by more people because Facebook says, hey, this page is putting out stuff that people are reacting to. And, second thing that it does, and this is probably the most important, is it gets your followers used to or comfortable with commenting on your page. So all of a sudden it's like, okay, this is a place that this isn't just the school district. This is a page that wants to be interactive. So the next time I see that for Mother's Day, this student made this gift for his mom, and here are these painted cowboy boots that are now planters. I'm gonna say, Luke, that is so cool. I bet your mom loved those. Or what a neat idea. Or, so they're going to be more likely to comment on some of those other things, which again is going to help your algorithm, which helps support our students. It helps support our staff members. It's all around a great thing. And I've seen, some of those, hey, name your favorite teacher. What usually happens, Rob, is they end up tagging that teacher. And then that teacher is like, oh my gosh, I remember when you were in my class. And they start this dialogue and connection that wouldn't have happened if you wouldn't have asked the question. And so I have seen that it's a positive force, kind of all the way around.
That's so awesome. So many good tips. I hope everybody was taking notes. And I love the idea of sparking engagement and sparking conversation, getting people used to commenting. I know you also are big on word of mouth marketing being the number one way of, um, you know, helping people engage with the brand of the school. And how do you get um, word of mouth marketing to increase with social media content?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the biggest thing is like, when you want to watch a show on Netflix, Rob, what do you usually go to? I mean, yeah, it's serving you up some that you like, but you're asking people that you're connected with, right? And they're
Yeah.
saying, "Oh my gosh, this show was really good." And so you're like, "Okay, I definitely need to watch this series next or this special." It's that word
Yeah.
of mouth that you take as kind of gold. And by the way, sometimes those suggestions aren't that great, but that's
Yeah.
okay. But we trust what other people that we're connected with say, and it's the same goes for schools. Okay, but word of mouth and people talking looks different these days, and a lot of those conversations happen on social media. I don't have a lot of conversations. I work from home. My husband works from home. If we needed something to watch on Netflix, I'm going on to Facebook and I'm saying, help, this is what we like. What's out there right now that we should watch? And then we get a bunch of comments. So when it comes to schools, we know that negative stories bad news spreads fast. Okay. So those bad stories, those, concerned parents and sometimes those parents that are always loud about everything, they don't have trouble going on to social media and putting those things out there. We know that most of what happens in our schools is really good. So we have to be proactive in getting those stories out there. And then the comments come in, the shares come in. People start commenting like, "Oh my gosh, my child would not stop talking about this activity. They had so much fun. We just had a field trip that the kids go on every year up to this hunt hill. There's a bog. There's like they're getting stuff out of the lake and looking at it through microscopes. It's so cool to see this hands-on learning." And it really sparks a lot of, I'm so glad that our school provides this opportunity. And then that ends up basically being your word of mouth marketing. It's not just what you said in the post of what you did and the activity that the kids were involved in. It's what other people are saying. And then they share it and they start talking about it. And um it's just amazing. I mean, I shared that number. I think a lot of people don't understand the true reach of social media. I mean, we're literally in my small little district reaching thousands of people every day are seeing at least one thing from our school every day in their news feed. Okay. Thousands. And we're just, I mean, our town only has 540 people in it. That's, I mean, if you
Wow.
could, and thinking about thousands is cool, but think about getting it in front of that one family that really needs to have that connecting space of conversation between a parent and a child. Think of that one community member that is really considering, gosh, I might take my child and put him into this school. Or what about people that are looking to move? And so it looks a lot different these days of how people are getting information. And I still believe that many K-12 schools are missing the opportunity that they really have at their fingertips for free. You do need somebody that knows what they're doing, but it really is a free platform that you can get your story out, and so it's powerful.
Cool. And what are the primary platforms you recommend that school districts use? Because there's a good handful. And
Yeah.
my follow up to that question is also, would you recommend, let's say there's a school district out there that's just really not active. They know this is a weak point for them and they want to get started. Do you recommend that they start, take one thing at a time and just really work on the first platform? And if so, like which platform would you
Yeah.
recommend for that?
If you can only be on one, you're going to be on Facebook. Okay. That is where you're going to reach the most of your parents, the most of your community, the most of your staff. I mean, some teachers and educators are on Twitter, but that's usually for personal connections and not necessarily with like a school entity. So
Yeah.
I always tell schools, if you can only do one and do it well, you want to focus on Facebook. Number two channel is Instagram. Okay. You're going to reach your young parents. You're going to reach your students. Are students on TikTok and Snapchat? Yes. Do most schools have the capacity and the knowledge to be successful on those platforms? No. I do an annual survey of what platforms schools are using. And by far, the biggest is Facebook, 96%, which I can't believe there's 4%. I had over 500 schools reply, I can't believe 4% aren't using Facebook. But
Yeah.
sometimes I'm kind of jealous, Rob, because Facebook is where drama happens too. So,
Yeah.
but second is Instagram, 80%, and then it goes YouTube, and then it drops off. And TikTok, out of over 500 schools that responded to my survey, which follow me and my free newsletter and stuff, so they're focused on social media. Only 8% of them have a TikTok channel. Okay. So every time you open up a new channel, a platform, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, it's like you've got to attract a new audience, right? And you've got to give them something to stay for. If you're going to a concert, you got all these different stages within maybe a festival grounds, you know, you're going to probably spend the most at, one of them, but you might bop around a little bit. So you just got to keep some of those things in mind. Don't stretch yourself too thin. Most schools don't have a school communicator. And so to go to your second question, as far as, starting with Facebook, it's not so much, I mean, you need to have somebody that's passionate, that's going to share the story for the school or the school district. Okay. It's not the title of that person as much as it is their interest and their belief and their passion for storytelling via social media. So it can be really successful with an administrative assistant. It can be really successful with an art teacher, a media specialist, a para, a principal. I mean, but with a system, you can do it with still having other responsibilities, but sometimes that can be challenging. I mean, that's why we do it for 86 school districts that don't have that, but we certainly teach how to do it. But don't think it has to be a specific role or position. It just needs to be the right person. And we've had so many people, I've been in this for 10 years now, so many people that were like, okay, I was a media specialist or I was teaching business ed. And so then they thought, okay, you can do social media. Then they ended up 50-50. Then they ended up in a communications specialist role. Then they ended up as director of communications. And then they ended up even having another person because they saw so much value in what the communication, not just social media, okay, but entire communication departments can do for a school district. So
Interesting. And so I want to bring it back to then what you do, and we're going to talk about your business for a little bit. So tell me about how you work with school districts. You've touched on it a little bit, but like, how do you work with school districts? Who should really consider your services, and like, what are some of those qualifiers that you look for with a school district, and like who is that point of contact? Because you're mentioning that you assist school districts with all their social media, but I assume that is also something that someone in the district needs to be working with you and communicating with you. And who is that person, and what does that workflow look like?
yeah. Well, so my most popular program is my membership program. So those are schools that do their own social media. They're the ones posting, but we provide a community, a Facebook group that offers a spot to ask questions because social media changes every day. We share ideas, but it's also professional development. So just today, Rob, we were teaching a session from another member on Facebook ads. So we were talking all about how to get approved for political and employment ads. We were talking through the types of ads, and we record that, and that all lives inside this membership group. Tomorrow we have just an open office hours where you can come on, and it's like, I just need help. Like, how do I figure out Meta Business Suite and adding a new admin? And so we offer that support in a group environment, but there's live things happening every week, and I bring in experts. So that is just $795 for a year for up to 3 people from the school entity, school district, or school to be part of. Okay. So
Wow.
that's very cost effective. All I say is, hey, if you can attract or retain one student, like
Yeah.
that's thousands and thousands of dollars. So it's a
It sounds like a
fraction.
it sounds like a too good of a deal, if I may say.
Yeah, it is. We've got over 400 schools in there now. And, there's some schools that still think it's too expensive. And it's just
Yeah,
like, dude, like we are competing for these kids. And you, Rob, you know this, the birth rates, they're going down. There's only going to be more competition in the future for students, for these
yeah. Yep.
schools to think about. So we've got to get started. So I love that group. I mean, I love supporting them. And Rob, that's really my secret weapon because I learn so much from the hundreds of people that are in there. We got 400 schools, but we've got over like 800 people in that group that are, focused on social media and storytelling.
Amazing.
Um, but then with our management program, I have a team of 30 stay-at-home moms that work with me, a lot of former educators. We become the person that gets the emails from the staff members and then posts it out there. The great thing is you don't really need somebody internally gathering things at your school because everybody has the ability to email things in, and we have 10 years of experience, millions of posts. I do not bat 1,000. I don't pretend to, because we can't always see the child in the background that might have a look on their face or a finger up that's inappropriate, that, oh my gosh,
Right.
we shouldn't have posted that. But we do have to deal with the comments. And so we are very careful. Okay. And we've learned a ton of what's okay to share and what maybe needs to be questioned. And in those questioning cases, we deal back either with the superintendent or with the director of curriculum or with the communications person to say, hey, your staff member wants to share this. We don't think it's a great idea. What do you think? And then we have that dialogue. So it's really pretty seamless. I mean, we just need that email address that we set up for the school, and then we take care of graphics. We upload videos. We monitor conversations. When something does spike up with a crisis, we help them deal with that. So that's kind of the done for you, which we're at 86 school districts right now. And frankly, we don't go much above 90. So there's competition there if anybody wants that. But the
Wow.
membership, we're definitely open to serving more there.
That's fantastic. And where can people contact you? How should people reach out to you if they're interested?
Yeah, socialschool4edu.com. It's the number 4. So that's my website. It'll have all the social channels. I mean, I'm at Andrea Gribble on Twitter, but pretty much Social School for EDU everywhere else. I do some speaking too. And, I've done some social media ambassador specialized
Yeah.
trainings for bigger school districts, especially in California, there in your neck of the woods.
Oh,
Um, but I consider myself, I was a cheerleader, Rob, in high school. I got to play sports too because we're such a small school. I got to do both. But I am that natural born cheerleader. And I just think we as schools, we need to adopt this in that positive way. And a lot of people are scared. Okay. A lot of superintendents and principals, they hate social media because they're dealing with issues with kids every day using it inappropriately, or parents using it inappropriately, or staff members using it inappropriately. But we can utilize it for good. We can really use it to amplify that message. And that's bottom line kind of my mission is to just help celebrate those students and staff, and let's get those stories in front of the communities that they live in. So
that's amazing. And I'm going to ask you one more question, which is, what do you think is changing about social media? Is anything changing? Is it the same as it was in 2015? What's different today, and what should people be thinking about in as they're thinking into the future and in the next couple of years with their content?
well, you mentioned the word 2015. What about what's changed since January of 2024? We're recording this in May of 2024. I mean, the algorithm, Instagram just launched a major algorithm shift. They're playing around reels versus carousels versus, stories. It used to be how many likes you had or followers, and now it's really about shares. I mean, it is constantly changing. And all I say with that is that's job security. It's job security for me. It's job security for you, who has to, change the way that we're doing video to get people to pay attention. But we have this ability to stay connected and learn from one another. Luckily, looking at another school that maybe is nearby, or just one that you really like, and seeing what they're doing, and seeing, hey, what are their likes, their comments, their shares, and then be like, how could we utilize that or do that same type of storytelling in our district or our school? So I think it's something that is constantly evolving. There's constantly new platforms out there. Facebook is not dead. There are still a ton of people and a ton of opportunity there. Of course, you got to kind of watch what's coming up, but we were all thinking Threads was going to be the next thing, and wah wah. Like, if you're still trying Threads for your school district, I just wouldn't do it. Like, spend the time on the channels that where you reach the most people, because you don't have all the time in the world. And a lot of my free content will help make it easier too. So you can just check out my website. We got lots of little helpful downloads. And of course, I've got my book out there too, Social Media for Schools. So you can check that out as well.
Awesome. Well, Andrea, this has been amazing. So much value, so much actionable tips. I hope everybody was like really taking notes and paying a lot of attention. We're going to put your links in the descriptions somewhere with the videos. And can't wait to have you on again in the future here. And thank you so much for sharing all this value with us.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, you guys, and just keep telling those stories. It really makes a difference. Bye bye.
Amazing. Bye.